Dan St.Yves, and for today's episode of Talking With, I'm a little ways away from home with an old friend. We're recording this episode live at the 37th Annual National Society of Newspaper Columnists Conference in Hartford, Connecticut. I have the great pleasure of being in the company of my colleague and friend, humorist Michele
Wojciechowski.
Wojciechowski.
Your house cake?
And I've made the mistake in the past of putting two L's in your name. I've Canadianized it, but we'll go
Stop
with
that.
one L. We just don't want to do that. I've had the pleasure of knowing Michele since our first Irma Bombeck Writers Workshop back in 2006. Since then, her career has blossomed to include stand-up, her Wojo's World Humor column, and a brand new award-winning book.
Next time I move, they'll carry me out in a box.
So we're going to talk a little bit about her career, some of the other stuff she's got her hands in, and of course we will end up talking about the book. But let's go back to the writer part of your career. You've written for everything from national publications like Family Circle, The Boy's Life, regional locals like Maryland Life and Baltimore Magazine. Your humor has appeared in publications and websites like LA Times Magazine, BaltimoreSun.com, Chicago Tribune's Red Eye. Did it just start with believing in yourself and submitting pieces?
I wouldn't say that's how it started. I think it started with a lot of neuroses, as many writers have. But actually it started, I started writing humor in high school, believe it or not. The first humor piece I remember writing was my sophomore year, and it basically was we had to personalize an inanimate object. And I wrote about what it would have been like to be Felix Umbridge's vacuum cleaner from The Odd Couple. And I started writing and performing stand-up when I was 18 because I wasn't scared to do it because nobody told me how frightening that could be. So I've just never had a fear of that. So the actual writing part, I guess I started my full-time writing career. I wasn't exactly writing full-time at the time, but doing as much as I could. Back in 1995-96, in that time. And I had been writing for a lot of publications in Baltimore, Maryland, from where I'm from. And one particular publication in 2003, I said to the editor, "Hey, can I do a humor column?" And she said, "Give it a shot. If it's funny, we'll run it. No pressure, you know."
Did you have a path that you envisioned when you started writing, or did the humor just sort of gradually get into there, or was that your master plan all along?
Well, it's funny. When I had my book launch last year in September, I had it as part of a fundraiser at my old high school. And they got out my yearbook. And I had written, you write what you want to be. And I wrote, I want to be a famous comedian or comedy writer, stand-up comedian or famous comedy writer. And so I've wanted to do it. I never had a plan for how to make it happen. I would be totally lying if I said, "Oh yes, I did this and this." No, it doesn't happen that way. You kind of stumble and fall and get back up and keep being persistent. So
stumbling and falling as far as rejections on occasion?
The life of a writer is rejection. And you have to, eventually you get over it and you realize, I used to edit a magazine in Baltimore that has now folded, but I didn't reject people's stuff. It wasn't personal. It was never personal. And it wasn't that they weren't good writers. Most times it was either we had already covered the subject or we wouldn't cover the subject. So a lot of times if you can put that in your mindset, that helps you to get through it. Now, I have had days where all of a sudden I have all these different queries or humor things rejected at once, and then if you don't have a deadline, you take off the rest of the day and go sit in the sun and hug your dog.
Yeah. What ends up in your column, or actually what doesn't? Is there anything sacred?
My husband ends up in my column a lot. But because I don't want to end up in divorce court, I do let him know what I'm writing about. I'll read my column to him beforehand. But I know him well enough that I know what things are off limits, which I won't even mention. But there may be in a particularly embarrassing time, and I'm thinking, as funny as that was, I am not writing about that. And then other times, it's fair game. And I ask friends, now that more people read my column, suddenly my friends want their first names used. Where it used to be just my friend who has kids, What is off limits? I write about a lot of lifestyle stuff that happens to me, or stuff that I observe, absurdities. Recently I wrote about the fact that I decided to cut my own hair. Not now, it looks good now, but and what was going through my head, and it's stuff that people can relate to. So, I don't know what would necessarily be off limits, but there are certain, there are certain things I wouldn't write about.
So there's not one piece of comedy gold that you've had to hold back on because it would just be too embarrassing for yourself or somebody else?
Do you think I'm going to tell you that? I mean, really. I mean, I love you, Dan, and all, but...
Nobody's watching.
Yeah, there are things I've held back on. I'm not telling you what. That would defeat the whole purpose. If I tell you, then I might as well write about it.
I think eventually you'll find that those things on a heavy deadline day will be the ones that creep up to the top of your mind and end up on paper.
No. If they do, I will call you in Canada and say, my family hates me because of you.
So you guys, Baltimore is fairly northeastern. Do you ever find yourself blending Canadian stuff into your work, or?
All the time. All the time, because I know so much about Canada and all of its residents, considering I had to ask you, because I'm geographically impaired, exactly where Calgary was in reference to where we are now. So, no, unfortunately. However, after this interview, perhaps I may be talking about a particular friend.
We'll see what happens with that.
And you'll wish that there were certain things that were off limits then.
So, I've seen you do stand-up a couple of times, and I know you're getting very involved in stand-up, especially great to tie in with the next time I move out, they'll put me in a box.
No.
They'll carry me out of the box.
Let's just make up a title. Dan, next time I change residence, I'll be dead. No, it is called Next Time I Move, They'll Carry Me Out in a Box.
That is a delightful title, and I think I'm going to stick with that one for the rest of the interview. But it's great because you do a lot of book signings and public readings, and the stand-up is a great tie-in for that. So, does that make you a better writer at the end of the day, though? Do you find that exercise is a different muscle for you?
Very much so. I can cover the same topic in writing, in the book, in a column in the book, and in stand-up, but I do them sometimes the same, but a lot of times in very different ways. Because in here, I have to communicate, in a book or in a column, I have to communicate just through words. Whereas with stand-up, I can use expressions, I can use a dramatic pause, I can use an eye roll. I can use a lot of other things that I don't have the opportunity to use in a column or in the book. By the same token, with comedy, you've got to be more quick. You can't set up the story too long.
Yeah.
You will lose your audience. So you have to, not that it has to be joke, but the setup has to be much quicker. So.
It seems to me that it gives you a bit of an idea. I know when I've done book readings, I get to find what works for some people and what doesn't. Mm-hmm. So it's interesting to have that immediate feedback, kind of like a live theater performance as opposed to a movie or TV.
Yeah. And there are times in which I've covered a topic in stand-up that I haven't yet written about, and it gets so much great feedback that I think, oh, okay, I should do a column on that. So
put it in. So now, I mentioned at the very start that we met back at Edinburgh Bombeck Writers' Workshop. Mm-hmm. Now you're on the faculty. Last time you were there. So how does that make you feel?
It's so amazing. I mean, when I go to the conference, it's not like I feel any different. I'm wearing the same clothes, I'm wearing the glitter sneakers, but it makes me, I'm just glad that I've learned enough that I can pass on to other people, because I have learned so much at that conference over the years and gained a lot of met a lot of great people, yourself included, whom I wouldn't have met otherwise. So I like helping people and I like teaching them. So I always like to teach people the mistakes I've had, so that they don't have to run into the walls that I did to get where I am now. So that was good.
Because it is a learning curve.
Oh yeah. I've been reading from doing book readings and speaking engagements, and I've been reading one particular essay that a bunch of people on my team who helped me figured out, And I did a reading a few weeks ago, and I thought, I'm going to shake it up. I'm going to try this other one. And the response was so much better, and I thought, what have I been doing for 6 months, 8 months? So, yeah, it's a learning curve with everyone, I think.
Tell us a bit about your humor collection. The next time I move, they'll carry me out in a box.
Yay! Well, this, they say that war is hell, and moving is a close second. And this basically covers, what happened was 6 years ago, my husband and I found our dream home when we weren't officially looking. And just decided, okay, we can't pass this up. And we put our house on the market. We had to get our house ready to be shown in less than 10 days. And I mean, we hadn't packed anything. And the thing is, when you show your house, I mean, you've done real estate related stuff. It has to look cozy, but it can't look like you actually live there. So it has to make people feel like they want to live there, but they don't want to know that you brush your teeth and spit in the sink in the morning, So this actually started with columns, because I think that's my cheap version of therapy, is I would write, not the whole book is columns, but about half of it were originally started in a different form as columns, just to kind of get me through this 4-month period, because it happened pretty fast, And we put our house on the market in February. It was crazy. So this is what this covers, and it hits a nerve with a lot of people, because I talk about everything from packing, unpacking, and not being able to find things. How we moved into our new house. We have a landline, unlike most people, in addition to cell phones. Couldn't find a phone. Could not find a phone. And my stepdad, who lives with us, said, well, hey, I got an idea. Why don't you call the phone? And then we'll figure out what box it's in. And I sat there, and my husband joins in. Yeah, that'd be a great idea. Call the phone. And I just sit there and wait. It's gonna click. Oh, the phone's not plugged in. What were we thinking?
It's male logic, I think, that fails us at the best of times.
It's just a little. But so it talks about all that.
And there's some other stuff as well, like some of the columns from over the years? Or?
No, this is all about the move. This talks about everything from finding the dream home to what it's like to have to keep your house so clean, what it's like to be insane enough to have 8 open houses in 10 weeks, how many movies we had to see, because you can't be in your house. We boarded all 3 of our dogs. I'm not going to give everything away, people, I swear. It's still very fun. But just everything you go through. So, and it wound up being enough for a book. So there I am. And look, I have the same shirt on in there. Look at that.
Just amazing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Remarkable. That's preparation. A tie-in.
I know.
Well, we're running out of time here.
Okay.
So I have to touch on this. But it's your fault for having it on your website. I got my start in humor at age 5 by entertaining people with my spot-on impression of Vinnie Barbarito from Welcome Back, Kotter. So I'd like to open the floor to your spot-on impersonation.
Well, first of all, you have to realize I was 5. Okay, I was 5. I was a little cute 5-year-old doing this. And I did it because my aunts would pay me quarters, and their friends would pay me quarters. And so I became professional. But, okay. Barbarino, Barbarino, Barbarino. I want a quarter now, eh?
I'll have to work on that right after we're done. Well, Michele, thanks a lot. The book, I have not yet had a chance to read it, but I shall be doing that before this week is over. Next time I move, they'll carry me out in a box. Best of luck and continued good fortune. Thanks for taking time out of our conference to have a chat.
Thanks for doing this. This is great.
You.
Thanks, Dan.